Hey everybody, Mr. Regan here, and today we're going to be in our simulator exploring how do we use force to affect an object's motion, and more specifically, how do we use a force to change an object's motion within our simulator. And we're going to do that by taking different objects and moving them around and looking at different features in our simulator. So we know that a force is required in order to change the velocity of an object. So I have an object here on my simulation map, and right now my object is, well, not moving. So if I have an object that doesn't have any speed in any direction, my velocity would be 0. And we know that because when we click on it, we can look at its horizontal and vertical velocity, and we know it's 0. We also know that because when I hit the run button, notice there is no motion. So we know an object's motion is currently 0 and it is not moving. So how do I go about moving this object at rest, or moving this object that has 0 velocity? If I move this object, we know that a force is needed, to change its motion. So we need a force to change its motion. And to do that, what we can do is we can apply a force to an object. So we know its velocity is 0. And what we can do is, if I hit the restart button here, I can click this button up here which says prepare force. And when I do that, notice this little menu box in the right hand corner kind of brightens up. So I have my object here, and I can apply a different force. So if we notice, we have a little hammer here, and I can click on the different arrows here to see where I can apply a force. Now notice on my screen that pink arrow shows up, and as I click it more, notice I can add a stronger or a larger force. I can also click in the opposite direction to create a smaller or a weaker force. I can click in one direction and then click in another direction to create a diagonal force. Or I can kind of reverse that as well until I get no force again. So notice I can click in one direction to create a horizontal force. I can click in another direction to create a vertical force. And then I can click in two directions, one vertical, one horizontal, to create a diagonal force. Now, once I do that, if I click the exert force, this little hammer is going to hit the object. And notice I have an object with 0 velocity, and when I exert a force, I change its velocity. Now, it's not a ton, obviously, but when I hit the analyze, we had a start velocity here of 0, and then we had a force applied, which changed its horizontal velocity to a negative 0.1, giving it an overall energy applied at 0.1. So if I click back to run, I can obviously pause my simulation, I can prepare my force, and I can apply a larger force. And when I hit the start button, notice now, again, a force is applied to change its velocity from 0 to give it a direction for its motion. And when I hit pause, I can analyze again, and notice now my horizontal velocity started at 0, and I changed its motion, and I changed its overall kinetic energy. So I'm going to go back to my build here. So we've looked at how to change an object's motion from 0, and we've looked at how to apply different forces in different directions to give it a velocity, a speed in a specific direction. So now it's your job to go into the simulator, and you can use as many objects as you want. You can apply different forces in different directions all you want. But what you're going to do is you're going to create a simulation where you have different objects with different forces in different directions. So what that will look like is you need to create a simulation where you have objects with a horizontal force, objects with a vertical force, and an object with a diagonal force all being applied to it. And you're going to take a screenshot of that. So objects with a diagonal force, objects with a vertical force, and objects with a diagonal force. When you think you've figured it out, run your simulation, take a screenshot, and if you have questions, obviously reach out to me. Otherwise, good luck.